Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of technical issue. But as you were saying, Chris?
That when you had told me to look for coffee houses when I was in LA, I found myself on a mission because I got actually first time I was in Hollywood. I got to walk Hollywood Boulevard. Crazy me. I counted every star there. I looked for every star and found, that's just me. But I did finally look up and find a coffee house, and I sat in it and I did a little couple of pictures. So to Ashley's point, I was blown away by it immediately.
Very cool. Very cool. So Ashley, we've talked briefly about health aspects, good or bad. I don't even like to use the word bad, about different coffees and coffee. Maybe you could give a little rundown on the effects. I know everybody's body types are different of coffee and different types of coffee, organic coffee, and kind of how it affects the body if you drink too little, too much, or should you drink it?
Well, okay. So that's a loaded question. I feel like the direction I'm going to go in is just recently, every year I've got some sort of fascination with my own little research project. And the latter half of last year, I started doing a research project and a paper for a course I had been taking. And I titled it hypothyroidism and what the effects of the thyroid. And I ended up kind of falling into viral issues that tend to cause people ill health. And specifically, we talked about the Epstein-Barr. And it is quite amazing how many people have Epstein-Barr. And I'll get to where I'm going to as it relates to coffee in just a second. But Epstein-Barr is an unproductive virus that causes rampant symptoms. And one of the things I found out in my research with hypothyroidism, that it's actually the root cause of a lot of thyroid issues, that they've kind of tagged hypothyroidism as it relates to the thyroid being in an autoimmune issue, but it's really, at least this particular piece of information, that I tend to believe more because it goes against the medical community, and because I've done plenty of research that validates that the thyroid is actually due to an Epstein-Barr stage-related virus. And so if I take that further and I look into how that relates to coffee, because I love coffee, and coffee, working with clients, doesn't always serve everyone, including myself. Drinking too much coffee can be extremely taxing on the adrenal gland. And it also can impede the endocrine system. So the endocrine system having to do mainly with the hypothalamus and the pituitary, which are super important organs that modulate all of our organs and glands as it relates to one most important thing, and that's energy, fatigue, and metabolism. Okay, so when I say that, people having metabolism issues, they can't lose weight. People having issues with fatigue, number one reason people go to a doctor, fatigue. People having issues with thyroid, anxiety, depression. I'm starting to figure out a correlation. And what I'm seeing is that coffee can be a contributor to all this. Now, one of the things that I teach in the education that I travel with, as it relates to nutrition, is that coffee is very acidic in people's bodies, and you have to be really careful about creating balance, pH balance in the body. So typically, if there's too much acidity, it's really important that when you start your day, you put something in your body, like nutrition, good food, before you put your coffee in there. And a lot of clients in the past have said, that's the first thing I drink in the morning, and I do have acid reflux, and I am constipated, and I do have mood swings, I do have lows and highs. And so one of the things I suggest is eating and then drinking your coffee so that you give a good buffer system with your stomach and your intestinal tract, so that the acidity doesn't create what we call intestinal permeability. Intestinal permeability is a really big phrase that is also called leaky gut. I could go a little bit further than that, but to keep it really simple, it causes digestive issues. and it causes people to not be able to absorb their food and get the nutrition from their food. That causes a lot of problems, and most importantly, fatigue. So is coffee good? Yes, in moderation with everything, right? So if you can have your cake and eat it too, but everything's in moderation. So coffee is great because it's anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, it's antifungal, it's anti-fibrotic, it's anti-cancer. It's good, but in moderation and in balance. So if somebody has a propensity to be high stress, that's acidic. That's acidity within the body because stress causes an increase of what we call hydrochloric acid within the stomach walls, which causes burning within the tissues, which doesn't allow us to digest our food. So what's important to know is coffee is good, but make sure that you've got a little buffer to it. So have something healthy to eat in the morning and then drink your coffee. Some people are like, well, I don't have an issue with that kind of stuff. Well, great. Then you can have your coffee. People tend to have highs and lows with coffee. So I always, in the check-related system, we always offer, like, let's have your coffee, but let's take the coffee and have it last a little longer by putting some coconut oil in it, by putting some real high-quality butter to it, some fat, so that we can take that rise, that a little caffeine rush that you get, and let it last a whole lot longer. Like, wouldn't you want to do that? Rather than bringing it up and then you dropping 2 hours later and needing another cup of coffee. At the end of the day, what is coffee? Is it an addiction or is it pleasure? And when it's addiction, it's not a good thing. And you have to, I talk about this in my own podcast, Balanced Body, but we talk about addictions and what that ultimately means. So let's go a little bit further. One of the things that I just found out real recently, because there are ill effects with coffee, is coffee, depending, can have what we call mycotoxins. And okay, what are mycotoxins? They're not good. And when I say that, a mycotoxin basically comes from mold. It's a toxic chemical that mold produces in the body that's commonly grown on like grains, raisins, coffee beans. And so beer, wine is another thing. And what's important about that is mycotoxins come from mold, which has come from fungus, but is on coffee beans. So if coffee is not bad, but if you have an issue with mold, if you've been tested and you know that you have an issue with mold, then coffee that has mycotoxins in it could potentially be harmful and could cause a triggered response to a dormant Epstein-Barr virus within you. Lots of people have a dormant Epstein-Barr virus within him, but they're not aware of it because they haven't been tested. But the importance is the mold. So talk about coffee that has mycotoxins in it. So how do you find coffee without mycotoxins? Well, you can get coffee that's roasted that doesn't have mycotoxins, but what we found through research is roasting only decreases mycotoxins about 42 to 55%. So the question is, and I always tell my clients this, like, how do you feel after coffee? What are your symptoms? Does it make you feel good? How do you feel an hour later? Because that's indicative of what truly was represented in the food that you just ate. You can take your heart rate. You can just do a self-analysis awareness of how you feel. And if it's negative, it could be blood sugar related because you didn't eat anything, and that adrenaline has caused a cortisol response, which leaves you depleted. It could be the fact that you do have a mold issue and that you do have a potential dormant Epstein-Barr that's now being fed by mycotoxins that creates now a Epstein-Barr that goes into symptomatic mode, which just to be clear here, anybody having symptoms of fatigue, metabolism issues, restless leg, headaches, anxiety, depression, infertility, psoriasis, brain fog, migraines, a big one that we found that was a big buzzword yesterday was the MTHR gene mutation. That was a big thing 2 years ago. That was kind of a rising issue. And that's when your body can't break down or assimilate B12 or folic acid. Those things are very important. And what I want to say to that is coffee, by way of mold, can cause these symptoms and issues. And through the research, what we found is the doctors haven't really recognized this this sort of bringing together, and they will diagnose it as chronic fatigue. Oh, you've got depression, you're on drugs. Oh, you've got hypothyroidism. Oh, you've got all these other things, when it all boils down to something like a viral issue called Epstein-Barr.
And basically, the doctors only give you a prescription. They're not going to give you a health benefit idea of how to take care of this. And to your point, you'd be interested to know that when I was drinking a lot of Dunkin' Donuts with my cream, I had every one of those symptoms you said. Plus, I couldn't lose weight after I hit a certain age. The feeling I got an hour later was horrible. Every day with the Tums, which is not good for you. Doctor put me on Nexium, and it cleared it right up. But 2 days later, I said, I can't be on a medication. I can do this. And that was my bad time with coffee. I had to give up coffee for 6 months on two occasions. And it turned out it could have been just the cream, but it was my body that was so broken, so toxified, that I could not function. You talk about fatigue, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
And I've had my issues with coffee. It took me 7 years to get off coffee, but I was so, I felt really bad. I felt fatigued. I had downs, lows and highs. And one thing to respect about mycotoxins, there's lots of different types, but they're basically carcinogens. And there's one particular mycotoxins, OTA, that depletes dopamine levels, which causes depression. And there's also mycotoxins that cause neural death within the brain. There's also mycotoxins that cause olfactory inflammation. And so a symptom to kind of bridge that, if you drink coffee and you immediately start getting a stuffy nose, then there's an olfactory inflammation that's going on. So it could be if you put milk and sugar in your coffee, it could be the milk. It could be that most people shouldn't have milk-based dairy. They can't digest it. So there's always the alternative, coconut and almond milk. So you can test that on yourself and see if that helps it feel better. And if it doesn't, then it quite possibly could be the mycotoxins in the coffee. Now, I also did some research on the other half of that. In other words, I researched mycotoxins and as it relates to coffee and people who support that. And then there's people who debunk it, saying, oh my gosh, mycotoxins are in everything. Like, what's the big deal? You know, the health regulations say there's not enough mycotoxins in these foods and coffee to really cause effects. Okay, and I give respect to that. Let's be aware. But at the same time, if you have an autoimmune issue with mold, then you are going to have a prevalence and a significant issue because of the mold factor. And some people who don't have mold issues or allergic or intolerance or reaction to mold, then it probably doesn't affect them. So you always have to pay attention to your symptoms. And the tall tale is about 60 minutes after you consume it. Now, there also has been research that proves that we can go even 3 days because there's a retention time in our body from mouth to anus. It takes about 3 days to eliminate what you've consumed, whether it's food or it's drink. So that retention time of 72 hours can create symptoms. And so that we have to pay attention to. There are people out there that coffee absolutely is not good for, and that's people with this CYP1A2 gene, and they'll tell you, now, every time I drink caffeine or any kind of coffee, I feel very uncomfortable and jittery. Well, those people have that gene, and they're very aware of it, and they'll say it gives me anxiety, and they know to stay away from that. But we're not; those people don't have a problem with coffee. We're talking about the people that love coffee, have a pretty good response right afterwards, but over time, chronically, are creating worse and worse symptoms. And we're saying, let's look at coffee as maybe being a contributor to that, and what you can do about it. You could first drink better quality coffee. So organic, does it has an herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides in the coffee? That's a higher quality coffee. We're also saying drink coffee that doesn't have mycotoxins in it. If you're unaware that you have a mold issue, maybe you could get tested for the mold to see if you do have that issue. So that's another alternative. You can also, I always encourage eating before you drink coffee, especially with the acidity. You could always eat something and then also put high fat something, whether it's coconut oil or butter, in your coffee to help also the assimilation of it and the duration of the feel. One of the things that's really important is understanding coffee and then espresso. So even a one step better is decreasing the amount of caffeine. So then we talk about coffee or we talk about espresso. And there's lots of different types of even coffee, like siphoning and extraction ratios as it relates to coffee and espresso. That's always very interesting. But you may be consuming too much caffeine. So the question is do you drink coffee because you love coffee, or drink coffee because you love the sugar with the milks and the sugar involved in it? And so if that's the case, then try working on decreasing that, or go to an espresso, which, believe it or not, has less caffeine in it. You know, you got an 8-ounce drip coffee, has about 140 milligrams of caffeine in it. But espresso, an ounce and a half, has about 60 to 80 milligrams of caffeine. So try reducing the amount of caffeine and see what happens. So these are all things that I have done in the past to experiment with my own body, because I love it so much and I want to enjoy it. I don't want to give it up, but I want to do it healthfully. And that's important for everyone, to enjoy the ritual, enjoy what they love, but take a healthy side effect. Because at the end of the day, if you're fatigued, you have depression, if you have anxiety, and you can't sleep at night, that's not good for overall health, and it's only going to deteriorate your health even more. Sleep wise, I always recommend clients reduce the amount of caffeine, eliminate it about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, because don't forget it has a half-life of 4 hours. So if you're drinking caffeine 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you still got a half-life up until 8 o'clock. And oftentimes people say, I don't sleep well at night, or I can't go to sleep at night. And I'm like, well, you're drinking coffee at 6 p.m. You still have caffeine in your body. So your cortisol is ramped up and your melatonin has reduced. So it will be difficult for you to sleep. I know I've been ranting and raving here.
That's great.
I talk about this stuff. But is there any other questions or thoughts on what I've said this far?
I'm scared to ask any other questions.
Carmen, can you hear me, Carmen?
Yeah, we can hear you, Chris.
All right, I do have a couple quick questions for Ashley. One of the main ones is we're all addicted to waking up and needing our coffee first, which you're right, we should have some nutrition in us. I try to have my oatmeal, my organic oatmeal. One of the biggest things that they stress is always have water first thing in the morning, at least a cup, to get your organs flowing. I wanted to get your feeling on that, because the coffee addiction is hard for people to break and not have the coffee first, because to me, that's the addiction. You gotta have that taste in your mouth. What's your feeling on that, Ashley?
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go. If I were to take this as a client situation, I would first address more of the root issue, which is, why is it that you need coffee first thing in the morning? Is it because you're tired? And is the real issue being tired and not getting quality or enough sleep, that you wake up fatigued and need that adrenaline caffeine kick to get going? And if that's it, it's not a coffee issue, then it's more a sleep rest issue for you. And don't forget, we're creatures of habit. So if it might not be that, it might be just that you've created a habit that needs to now change a little bit. And now you wake up in the morning with a different ritual, that you wake up with some lemon water, some warm water with lemon in it to nourish the organs and create peristalsis so that you can have a bowel movement when you get up and start your day fresh and empty. And then have a little something to eat, knowing that you are going to have your coffee, but not yet.
Agreed. I totally agree with you on that, because if habitual behaviors is really what is the root of the problem, let's call it what it is. It's that habit, got to have that coffee. When I miss and don't have my coffee, I'll be driving all the way to Manhattan knowing I'm going to a coffee house. My taste buds obviously are okay because I didn't force the cup to get to where I was going to enjoy the cup. That's what I mean by addiction. I use that as a catchphrase for, are we really, can we ever get away with not having that cup in the morning? Can we do that? Yes. But the habitual part doesn't change. Our bodies just are adapted. It's exactly to what you were saying. We're adapted.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, I'll tell clients, if I do believe that coffee is really disrupting their digestive system, if I do believe it's a big root of it, then we can go to something that's a little bit more subtle on the system, which is tea, which has caffeine. That they may need may need that a little bit in the morning, but to a lesser degree and much more healthy than coffee. So tea is an alternative. And then I'll say, if you feel like later on in the day, like around 11, 12, 1 or 2, you're still craving that coffee, then your body's had plenty of nourishment in it, plenty amount of water, then enjoy your cup of coffee later on. If you can start with tea, it's a definite alternative and better on your system. At the same time, note that coffee is a diuretic. So it's really important that if you consume diuretics, that you're complementing the diuretics with an overconsumption of water, because for every 6 ounce, 8 ounce of diuretic you have to replace it with that much more water in your day. And when you educate people on that, and they have to drink 100 ounces because they weigh 200 pounds, they decrease their diuretics because it's really hard to drink that much water in a day. So that sort of education helps as well. And when they realize that the reason they're so fatigued is because they're dehydrated, which dehydration causes so many more symptoms, including satiety. So people who are dehydrated tend to eat more because they're really thirsty. They're not hungry.
I'm so glad you touched on that. That was where I was leading, because when I did my health, losing the 50 pounds, the key element was always, I'm allowed to have coffee, but water was the only thing I was allowed. I mean, everything was in small portions. I was restricted from everything, and the weight came right off. My face came back. The inside got better. Everything about me got better. And when we get further into what we're doing, my before and afters with my CPAP and all the operation I had on my throat to try and sleep at night so I can get rid of the sleep apnea, had nothing to do with that. It was diet and being overweight. That coffee, everybody thinks, since we've been doing this, Carmen and I, that I'm a coffee addict. I really only have 1 to 2 cups a day, and sometimes I don't finish it. The third is when I get the craving for some sugar. I don't put sugar in it, but instead of reaching for that cupcake or that chocolate chip cookie, I say, let me have a coffee. And it worked. It worked for me because the flavonoids in my mouth made me just stay away from the sweets, the cookies. That's my thing. People are hitting me. How do you not have? I'm on my 3rd cup by 10 o'clock. Well, that's a habitual problem. And they tease me. I put a post out earlier. I ate my salad at First Ease last night. I was out for an engagement and I had my cup of coffee.
The key thing is they've already had 6 cups. I would never do that to myself. My friend is always, eat, enjoy life, eat. I said, then I go back to my ailments. And as soon as I put an X amount of pounds on, the sleep apnea starts again because I have a small throat. So I want to hit home with Carmen on this. For me, this is how it worked. For me, everything you're saying is fascinating me because I'm like, oh my God, I was the guinea pig to that, to all that habitual problems. I can eat this. I went to the gym. I can eat that. I went in a spin class. I can have it. That was what put a pound at a time on. And thank goodness coffee, I lost my burning sensations, no more Tums. I haven't had Tums since I lost the 50 pounds in 25 months. I haven't had one Tums. No burning, I could drink my coffee. I now eat onions. I now eat things that I never could eat before. So everything you said was fascinating to me because it hits home and people need to hear that.
I think what's also something that you mentioned that I want to touch on that I feel is really important, and what you said with people by 10 o'clock, they've had 6 cups of coffee. And so for me, what I found over the years with that is the important key to remember is food. And they're reaching for coffee is energy for them. If they've had 6 cups by 10 o'clock, then what they're saying to me is that they're reaching for energy. And what we need to realize is food is energy. When it's live, whole food, it is life force energy to our body. And the problem is we don't think of that because we denatured foods that are processed and packaged. They don't have life force energy, so they don't offer us life force when we eat it. They make us tired, which makes us reach for a cup of coffee to create the energy. But if people would replace their croissants or their donuts or their packaged foods, and they actually ate real whole live food in the morning, they wouldn't be reaching for a cup of coffee. And you could take that one step further. Is a lot of people I've found in my, I just finished a client who ate healthy, very healthy for years, but never could lose weight. And she was crying. She says, I exercise 5 days a week. I eat whole foods. I eat really good. I eat organic, but I still can't lose this weight. And the only thing that I fixed with her, which I didn't think it was a big deal, but she was like, oh my God, I couldn't find this information. It was her ratios. She was eating too many carbohydrates and not enough fat and protein to create that satiety, and she would just eat. And we have to remember that our metabolic our cells need a certain number of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins to feel good. And if we don't reach that ratio, each person is very different. We have an individual a cellular need. Even if you're in the same family, that cellular need has to be perceived and aware within yourself. And if you're eating something that doesn't meet that ratio, then as soon as you get done eating and an hour after, if you're reaching or you're going, I'm still hungry, I'm still not satiated, that means there was something within that meal that wasn't enough. Everyone has to do their own research. Was it not enough carbohydrates? Was it not enough fiber? Was it not enough fat? Was it not enough protein? And that takes time to figure out. But that's the biggest thing that I see within clients who have issues feeling really good and being able to lose weight and keep it off.
Absolutely. You hit it so good. I have to tell you, the eating of that food, you think you just solved your problem. No, now you just put habitual aside, because we just so used to putting food in our mouth. That sitting around on a Sunday, having that thing that you think, having that meal that you think just helped you, and then you, half hour to an hour, you're back in the kitchen looking in the pantry. Very important. And one of the other things, I've been lucky. I have gained so much power, energy, mental clarity from losing the weight that this is not for me to get energy. The one thing I need is less energy, so I don't need coffee. But when I hear people say, I said, why are you having that Coke? What's the soda for? Oh, I need an energy boost. So why are you having a Hostess cupcake? Have something good. Oh, I'm a little tired today. I go, poison is poison. Go ahead and have your poison. And I have a problem. Paula says I have no filter. I don't hold back. I'm like, why are you eating that? They think that's the answer. And back to the coffee. I don't need to use coffee to give me more energy. I need it to enjoy. And that's something to hit home about.
Yeah, to a testament that it's always about talking to people about their rituals. And in coffee, it's like, is it the cup? Is it the warmth? Is it the caffeine? Is it the location of where you sit? Is it the time you spend with your partner that you always enjoy a cup of coffee? What is it about your addiction that you have this need? And from there, figuring out how we can just make it healthier for you so you can continue it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with beer and wine. People say, you're going to tell me to stop drinking my wine every night. And I said, no, we just have to work around it so that your healthy body can support your addiction. And then once they figure out, when they start feeling really, really good, and then they're drinking the vice is their alcohol, and they then decrease a little bit, they are aware then how it makes them feel. And they're going, maybe I should stop drinking it and only 3 nights a week. If that's what you want, that's fine. What you'll find is it's important to feel the contrast. And the only way to feel contrast is to eliminate or decrease and to be aware of how your body what your body is telling you. The body can't communicate to you. It can only give you signs and symptoms. And that, I think, Chris, that's the biggest thing, is we have to be more mindful and aware of what our body is trying to tell us on a daily basis. And then try to help it and try to, work on creating that awareness through modifications to get to the root cause so that you can ultimately feel better and love life.
I will admit to this. If I was hiring you 30 months ago to talk to me, I would have said the exact thing you did. I can't give up my drinking. I wasn't a beer drinker. I will not give up my 3-4 drinks at the end of the week. I can't give up my pasta. It's all habitual in the brain, because what you just said is all I did. Now I go to dinner and I go, I don't really want that cocktail. I want to have water and enjoy my meal. I was drinking my drink before dinner, having a second, and never enjoying the meal, but eating all the plates and everybody's plates. It was exactly the way you put it. And I'm so glad you said that, because moving forward with this, people need to hear that and learn that it's up here.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want people to realize more than anything, the only reason I know this, Chris, because for 18 years I've heard the same story. And as easy as it is, it's complex, because don't forget, we're emotional beings, and eating and drinking is emotional, and it's more emotional for women because women are more emotional. So as easy as it sounds, just stop drinking coffee. Oh, just stop drinking alcohol. You can't, because you have to deal with the emotional side effects to why that is what it is, and then go from there. But what I want people to realize is your side effects or symptoms, which I'm only talking about negative ones, it's not in your head. And I hope no one ever, no doctor, no other person ever tells anyone it's just in your head, because it's not. It's something, and you just have to keep searching and figuring out what it is. For years, I knew coffee didn't serve me, and I just didn't understand why. And I tried so many different modifications. I've eventually got off of it, like you did. I got off it for 6 months. I felt a lot more energy. I felt so much better. But I'm like, but I want to enjoy it. So how can I enjoy it, but healthfully? I don't need it. I just want it. And so then it's about creating, a lot of people think that I'm a super, super health freak, rigid person. I don't think that I am. I need to do what I need to do so that I can enjoy the things that are not so good for me.
Well, then to that point, I'm so glad Carmine had noticed what I was doing 8 months ago and brought it up to me. It's so great that you're doing that. And as I lost the weight, I showed a message. Look, I'm out. I'm having my salad. I'm enjoying it. It's got my protein in it. I'm not having it doused with the calories from the bad dressings that they mix. I'm enjoying sprinkling and doing it. And people made fun of me, but I enjoyed them making fun of me. I said, I got big and fat on purpose by saying I can have whatever I want. 3 gyms at my disposal, until I lost my energy. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't get to the gym anymore. I couldn't get up in the morning. I couldn't get off the couch to go do a spin class. I've been spinning since 1996. What happened to me? My body reached a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And that drove me crazy. I said, I've got to make this change. And to your point, I like what you said. I want to have it. I don't need it. I want to have it. And the 2 things you touched on, most important, for me, it's the cup and the atmosphere. Clarity.
Yeah, and I think what's also, I would have never thought of it if you hadn't said it, but I think one of the things that you mentioned, which was part of your success, was that huge, people are not conscious. You just said you enjoyed your meal, you tasted it, you sat with it, you looked at it, you processed it, you became conscious. People they're talking on the phone, they're watching TV, and they're just shoveling food in their mouth. Right. They're not sitting down being grateful for the trees and the animals and the plants that gave them this nutrient dense food, in appreciation, and every bite they chewed. So that first of all, digestion starts with a thought. You start creating saliva, your mouth starts watering, you're thinking about that great salad, or you're thinking about that delicious meal that you're about to eat. So saliva starts building up in your mouth, which is has digestive enzymes. So it's in the mouth, you keep it in your mouth, and then you chew it. Some people chew 2 times and swallow it, and that leads to so many different problems because the food isn't properly digested, leads to like fungus and parasites, because part of those enzymes are about breaking down the food to kill off any toxins or any parasites or any issues within the food that could cause intestinal issues. So thinking and chewing and enjoying, that's all so important to being successful within your nutrition and your life plan.
To that point, to your point, I sit with a bunch of people and I study the menus now. I read every single thing. Well, what's this with this? And it's fascinating to me because I literally go, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. I can have it, but I'm not going to feel good after I eat it. So why am I going to put it in me? And to your point about sitting on the couch, there's the 10 to 20 minute rule. If you can get past that craving 10 to 20 minutes, people are using that 10 to 20 minutes to eat half a bag of potato chips. I did it all. And moving forward with Carmine in this, I can show a lot of great before and afters that would blow you away.
Yeah, it's funny because you're bringing up your process and journey is bringing up all the staples to what people do to get them in this this position of dis-ease within the body, whether it's overweight, whether it's fatigue, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whatever it is, that mindfulness, and also that you just mentioned it, the self-reflective consciousness, that is paramount, because I can't say it enough to clients. There are consequences to everything. What you're doing is you're missing the mindfulness time where you're going, well, if I do eat it, what are my consequences? Is that something that you are willing to take on? I said, you're not even going there. You're just eating it. And then 2 days later, you're coming to me and saying, I ate a whole piece of cake and I had some wine the other night. I said, well, how did you feel about it? What did you think when you were eating that cake? Were you thinking, well, I'm willing to take the consequences. I'm going to feel bad tomorrow. No, I didn't even think about that stuff. Right. That's where we need to get to, is that every decision you make, know that there are consequences. And are you willing to accept your consequences? Yes, no, or different. Get to that step and go, I've worked so hard. I'm not going to eat that cake because I don't want to look at the scale tomorrow and see water retention and weight because I ate this cake. Is there a modification? Can I have just a cookie, or I'll just drink 16 ounces of water, which won't make you crave that additional bag of chips.
Right.
That's mind blowing. People are like, but I'm still hungry. That's because you're probably dehydrated. Why don't you drink 16 ounces of water? Tell me in 20 minutes if you still want the chips. No, I didn't want the chips. And I'm like, yep.
It's all good stuff. Wow, I'm so glad we did this. That's such good stuff.
Hey, guys.
It's everything that I was the guinea pig to.
We got a couple more minutes left. I do want to ask Ashley a couple questions, kind of fun questions. So, Ashley, what's kind of your favorite coffee drink then?
Yeah, so I love any kind of coffee. And, people say when you drink coffee with milk and sugar in it, they're like, oh, so you like the sugar. And no, I like cream and sugar. It has to be almond milk. I like that. I like a cup of coffee. I like French press. And I can also enjoy the most a double shot of espresso with a high extraction ratio, where it's thick and creamy and there's nothing in it. That is something that I probably do the most, is just having a double shot of espresso makes my heart sing. I just love it.
Wow, so that's your cupcake. You enjoy that. I had yesterday, it's been turned on to a pumpkin chai. I was standing there. I said, I had my coffee already. What's that? And they said, try it. When someone, a barista says, try it, I try it. It was delicious. I felt like I ate a cupcake.
Yeah, I when I was not doing coffee, I was drinking chai lattes. And when I found out how much sugar was in them, I was like, whoa, I had no idea. But I also know that when I drank my chai afterwards, I could feel my blood sugar drop quite a bit. So I knew, but I didn't know. I knew my body told me that, but then when I actually got the fact that, there's a lot of sugar in that, then I was like, it probably doesn't serve me, or I need to have quite a bit of fat and protein meal snack before I have it, so that I can enjoy it. I mean, I think everyone should enjoy all those things. Just work around it so that you feel good the rest of your day.
Good point, Ashley, because the point I'm trying to bring out is, I had it. Do I need it again? No. My body is now in burn mode. It's in full physical. I don't need that. I don't need that. This is good. Have a great protein lunch. That's how my mindset and body is adapted. So having it yesterday was a treat. Will I have it again? No need. Not interested. Not because of sugar. I'm glad you told me that. That was good to know. But
yeah, I mean, and the reason that it's so nice is, you have to be adventurous and have enjoyment in your life, and go outside of the box and try something you never had before, just to see if you do like it, just to see how your body does respond. You might find that that's something that you would enjoy all the time. And your body does respond very healthfully to that. I know we've gotten a little bit off topic there. We got into nutrition, but I think it's all good. Carmine, is there anything else that you want to speak to as far as the coffee realm goes?
No, we've covered so much. What I do would like is invite you back and maybe kind of cover a specific topic that some of our listeners might write in or ask about. It's so great that we covered a full spectrum of so many things. I know that a lot of our listeners right now are questioning how much coffee they drink, how they drink, what kind of coffee they drink, because, it's very important to be aware. And I love the way you talk about just being aware of how you feel after you consume something can really change somebody's life.
Yeah, and I don't want to forget, I talked about mycotoxins as it related to coffee, and I do want to throw out there that if anyone's like wanting to pursue that, there are 2 brands that I know of that do offer mycotoxin-free coffee, and that is Bulletproof Coffee and Purity. I'm not a spokesperson. I don't get paid for that. I do want to give that information if someone wants to continue the research or is interested in trying it. I know when I did it, the before and after, I felt a difference. I felt a positive difference. Have I ever been tested for mold? No, I don't know that I have an issue with mold, but I do know that my body feels better when I drink coffee that's mycotoxin free.
Cool. Hey, Ash, before we hang up, can you please, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, ask you a question, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's balancedbod.com. Always welcome to come to that website, and you can ask a question through that. You can always email me at Ashley, ASHLEY, at balancedbod.com. That's my personal email if you want to just ask me a question or make a comment or any of that sort. Always welcomed. I appreciate feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. It can only help and make me better.
And also, I want to mention that Ashley has her own podcast, Balanced Body, which is an awesome show. She covers a lot of information that almost everyone can utilize. So if you do have a chance, subscribe to Ashley's show. It's pretty cool. Chris, I'm going to close up the show. Anything you got to cap it off?
I just want to clarify that's BOD, balancedbod.com.
Yeah, I couldn't get Balanced Body, so
No,
I had to shorten it.
Fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I wrote it down correctly, Ashley, because we are working with a couple of different people that want to come on the show and want to talk, and they're going to hear this, and they're going to want to talk to you and go, because you touched on so many things. This would take 3 to 5 shows to actually hone it all down, especially now I got to go back to my notes of what I've been studying for so long, because I want to be able to be specific with people like you are, so they can go right to you and hear this. It's one thing that I recommend things to people, but am I recommending the right thing? So I think we hit on something really spectacular in my feeling, how I feel right now. I'm so glad I got to talk to you about this.
Yeah, and I tell you, it could not happen without your experience and journey, Chris, because I just tagged off of all your information, and the fact that you just talked about your journey just kind of triggered so many thoughts and ideas of that's exactly what I need to say or what I need to talk about, and that so many people have had your same journey. So thanks for sharing your journey with everyone so that we could expand this conversation to potentially help so many other people that might be on the same journey or have been or might be beginning the same journey. I appreciate you both having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley, for being on. I appreciate your time, giving us your time. And again, we're going to close up the show. If possible, I would ask everyone to please, if you can, it would be awesome if you go out to Google Play or iTunes, leave us a review or a rating. We could really use the help. If you have a special coffee shop that you like, go on out to seeyouat6network.com or mycoffeehouse.com and let us know how we're doing and send us some information. For myself, Carmen Dinisco, for Ashley, for my co-host, Mr. Christopher Shire, I thank you for being one of our listeners today, and we'll catch you next time on the See You at 6 Network. You all take care.